Hi, kids. Okay, next up is A Nightmare on Elm Street, released November 9th, 1984, written and directed by Wes Craven. We haven't talked about Wes Craven very much yet, so let's get into that. Wes Craven was someone who was brought up in a very strict Baptist upbringing. Not a lot of horror movies or rock and roll in his childhood. Post secondary, he goes on and studies philosophy, psychology, and English, becomes an English teacher, becomes a professor. So there's another teacher in our horror series here. Eventually decides he wants to get into the movie business, starts as a sound editor, and then becomes an editor. At one point, he did some time in the porno industry. He used pseudonyms because he didn't want his family to know. Apparently, he had a part in the film Deep Throat. And then he gets a friendship with Sean Cunningham, who I mentioned in the Friday the 13th video, director of that film. The two of them work together. Um, the Last House on the Left is released, and Wes wasn't aware of exactly how wide it would be released. Otherwise, he wouldn't have put his name on the film. He would have used a pseudonym. Um, Eventually, Wes is reading in the paper. He reads the story of a boy and his family, refugees. The boy can't sleep for days. He's having nightmares. He eventually falls asleep. He's screaming in his sleep, and he dies. Um, it's a refugee sudden unexplained death syndrome. There's another name for it. It's a known condition. The cause isn't quite known, but it's believed to be something to do with post traumatic stress. Anyways, that gives Wes the idea for A Nightmare on Elm Street and Freddy Krueger, who he names after a bully from his childhood. We get Robert Englund, of course, in the role. Heather Langenkamp is the final girl. And then the love interest is a newcomer, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp was not looking to be in the movies at the time. He wanted to be a rock and roll star. Um, he went with his friend to the audition. His friend was Jackie Earle Haley, who would later on in the remake, he is Freddy Krueger. So, a little trivia there for you. And Wes really only cast Johnny because his daughter saw his headshot and thought he was cute. And he thought, good enough for the movie I'm making. Only had a $1.1 million budget, but of course, we're talking about it, so it had to have some kind of impact in the box office. That impact was it made $57 million. They filmed it in 32 days. If for that budget and that time frame, I think the special effects in this movie really hold up, especially the way they filmed that the blood in the bed. If you've seen it, you know. If you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it. And then the twist ending is something that I wanted to talk about because in the Carrie video, there's the twist ending in Carrie, which inspired, I don't know if I mentioned the ending in Friday the 13th. It was Tom Savini's idea. He said, what if we do something like Carrie? Let's bring Jason back. So they did that. And then, because of the popularity of those two things, the studio demanded a twist ending. And this one, they shot multiple different versions. And yeah, Wes wasn't too happy about it, but got put in the film. Uh, how many sequels are there? Wes wouldn't have any part of them until the fifth one, New Nightmare, which is kind of a meta commentary take on horror and the whole franchise itself. Maybe a little ahead of its time, but when the time is right, Wes gets back to that now, doesn't he? That'll be in another video. I think that's about it for this video. Nice and short. I've had some long ones. Next, I am going to talk about a movie that won a whole slew of Academy Awards. I'm sorry, I almost forgot this video, but I had to talk about it. Had to talk about Wes. Had to talk about the meta of it all. Um, Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, subscribe. Thank you very much, guys.